Check, check, check. Check, check, check. Talk, talk, talk. Talk, talk, talk.
There's no sound yet, Linda. We're waiting on a second because my AV is not working in the room, so I'm waiting for somebody to come up and fix it, and then we'll get going on the actual presentation itself. The question is, will it reach? That's always fun. Oh. Oh, well, I'm gonna have to do a dual, a double adapter here. That'll be fun. Oh wait, actually,
you can also
why don't I just try and do that instead of that? There we go.
Awesome.
Babaluba, see?
Okay, sounds good.
The collective brain works there.
Have a lovely day.
Thank you. What is happening here? I never even muted it, so now people can hear us tech supporting on the stream.
Very good. I wonder if it's just too stretched out.
I don't know. That's weird. Okay. All right. So, hi, folks. We'll get started here. So, like I said in the email, we have a light agenda and just a couple of things to touch on in regards to what we've got going on in the service, and then kind of leave it open for some conversation as well. Although we only got a few people online and 2 people in the room, so the conversation might be lighter than what I was anticipating. So the first update is one of the things that we've been tinkering around with is a response to what happened not last month, the month before, in January and then into February, which is we updated the ACF fields or the ACF plugin that we use, or the ACF, whatever it is, the advanced custom fields function that we use for our builder, for the page builder stuff here. And that update started to enforce things that we had not anticipated, and that is the disallowing of particular tags being used and particular parameters being used within those tags. And one of those was iframe, another one was script, and things of that nature. So, still not working here. Just to kind of show you what we're working on. QA. So what Jonathan did, or I believe it was Jonathan, but what Jonathan did was he created a plugin that is, I think it's called the Allowed HTML plugin. And essentially what the plugin is meant to do is it is meant to allow for those things that did not exist or did not be allowed. I do a lot of bouncing around and trying to talk at the same time, but I can't find my example. Regardless, what the plugin is meant to do is it is meant to allow those particular tags such as iframe, embed, and I believe script was the other one. It was allowing those back into the HTML, the text editor, and then at the same time, as a part of that function, the parameters that go along with a particular thanks, Mike. The parameters that go along with those particular tags are also going to be allowed. So things like height, width, I believe limit was another one.
Yeah, so only some of the attributes.
Yeah, so we're only throwing in some of the attributes right now because of the fact that we wanted to reintroduce this ability to people because it did break a lot of things that you guys, or some of you guys did. But we don't want to just full scale let it go back to what it was because of the fact that we are trying to stay with what WordPress is doing, which is enforcing this security functionality of not allowing iframe and script and things like that, because it does potentially create vulnerabilities within the various text editors and the script variables that can appear in there. So so I did have an example to show, but it's a long process and will take a while for me to log into that. So I don't want to belabor that. I can do that once we have a little more time with that. So I guess any questions from you guys? Nothing? No. We'll be delayed in the chat a little bit. So if you guys have questions there, go ahead and ask. Like I said, this is out there now. It's pushed to production. So if you are noticing anything weird about any of those tags that you were using in the past, specifically the iframe tags, because a lot of times people were embedding Google Sheets, they were embedding YouTube videos and other things in their sites via the embed tags or via the iframe tags. Those should be back to working now, but if you notice anything weird going on, please just let us know, because we need to make sure that the plugin is capturing all the things that we need it to capture moving forward from that standpoint.
I have a question on that.
Go ahead.
You said that only some of the parameters will work, though. Do you have any documentation, or is there a list of which ones do work?
I don't think we have documented it yet, okay. What is allowed in there. The three specifically that I know of that we looked at were height, width, and limit.
Okay.
So height and width for obvious reasons, and then limit was one that I think had to do specifically with Twitter, which
we
was
also added style as an attribute.
Oh, the style, yeah, the style functionalities within those, yeah. So that so that when you copied and pasted that code, the style that came with it would also embed in there.
Okay.
All right, hang on a sec. Now that I know. Hi, Phil.
Interject a random thing which has nothing to do with WiscWeb. Yeah.
Hey, welcome here.
Programmatic DNS API access is available. Pilot campus. It's huge.
There you go.
Topic, but
Yeah. Okay. So here's one just to kind of show it that I'm testing out. And this is a different thing that I'm trying to test out, but it is using the embed or the iframe functionality for Google Sheets. And that's, here is this Google Sheet is set to width of, I believe, 100%. And then the height is, I think I set it to like 800 or something like that. So you can see that the embed is working. I've got other issues going on with this that I need to fix, but that is working there. So if you have any issues with that, let us know, because like I said, we can test it. We can see what it looks like from our end. But the biggest issue we run into is because we're super admins and we technically, everything works for us technically because of the fact that the WordPress disallowed stuff still allows super admins to do it. So a lot of times we forget to log in as just a normal user to fix things. So we'll always be logged in as ourselves in our super admin accounts. So we'll go, yeah, it's working, it looks great. And then somebody else will go and update their page and it will then break subsequently. So just to let us know if you run into any of these issues specifically with that. So that is the first update, just to note that we have that particular plugin in place now. The second thing that I wanted to touch on, I didn't email this out, but I did email this information out earlier, which is we now have our next class listed for our collaboration with the Center for Digital Accessibility and User Experience, and that is this class called Accessibility for Content Creators. I'm not sure why I didn't put in 4 there, but it's Accessibility for Content Creators. And also, I need to fix the formatting there. But what you'll see is this is a class, for those of you who know who Sandy Arendolkowski is, she is going to be running this class for us, and it's going to talk people through some of the things that you have to consider when it comes to accessibility and your website here at UW-Madison. So we're pretty eager for this one because accessibility has been a huge challenge for us to get as much information out there as we can for folks. So, so this is the third of this collaborative effort. The first one was the heart framework or the goal setting options. That video currently exists right here. The second one, which was last Friday, which was the basic Google Analytics, the introduction to Google Analytics course that Adam also taught, Adam Hillsmeyer taught. That video is out there. I haven't created the post yet to also reflect it. And I need to create a new training resources section now because of the fact that I'm going to be building a lot more of this moving forward. So we have the heart framework, we have the basic analytics. The third one will be Sandy's accessibility course. We have another one coming down the line that's going to be taught by Jonathan Dietering, our developer, one of our developers, I should say, which is going to be a more advanced Google Analytics course, which is going to go a little bit more into how do you segment out that data a little bit more? How do you actually, instead of looking at the data, how do you ask that data some questions that you might have, and how to pull out that data and create reports on it and things like that. So it's going to be a deeper dive into Google Analytics. That one will be probably the first week of April. Again, I have to get the scheduling for that one set. And then we also have another one, which I was just contacted about yesterday that I'm going to create an event for, is another one of the folks out of Do It Communications, Maria Dahman. She wants to do a course on usability testing and basically how do you get information from your users and what are some of the different strategies that you can use to not only look at your site from your own viewpoint, but how do you gather some feedback and information from potential audience and figure out if what it is that you're doing is working or what can you do more to make that work. So that one's going to be coming up mid-April. I think April 18th was the date that we get set on. So I'll get the events created for that, for those two moving out there. But this is pretty exciting for us. This is something that I've been trying to get going for a couple of years now, is this collaboration between the user experience group and our group. And now that we're able to deliver these things, it's pretty exciting to get more information in all of your hands moving forward. So, all right. So the last specific topic that we have, and I don't have anything really to show on the screen because we haven't built anything out, was we are undergoing the process of sort of creating our roadmap moving forward. So in essence, trying to figure out what our particular priorities need to be, what our priorities should be, and what types of things are out there that we are not yet aware of. And that was one of the things I put on the agenda for today, was to kind of get some public feedback or some public information from all of you as our users. Essentially, what types of things are you looking for us to be more focused on? What types of things are we doing well? What types of things do we need to do better? We know a couple of the conversations that'll come up already, one of them being plugins specifically, and that's a known issue for us. But what other types of things for us moving forward is something that, you know, we can take and sort of add to our focus as we move forward? Michael, I'll look at you first because you're the longest time user in this room, I believe. This is the public comment section of our meeting.
Maybe some advanced topics for pushing with the theme and what we're supposed to do.
Mm-hmm.
Just because a lot, some of us have been using this setup now for a while.
Yeah.
It's like, how do we kind of break free from some of the vanilla stuff that we may have built when we first started?
So this more giving you more customizable, or
even
not so much
just
customizable, but just
reevaluating some of the things that maybe at the time were a good idea.
Yeah, that's something we've actually talked about a bit as well, is taking a look at how prominent some of the page elements are that are being used and gauging whether or not they need to remain a part of the page element, or gauging whether or not they're meeting the need that they were meant to meet, but are people finding different ways to meet those needs. Navigation's always an interesting one, because on-page menus were something that is available to folks, but I have started to get people to think about using the featured content block as a means of visual navigation on a page rather than the side menu or the menu at the top kind of thing. So, Linda said, are you writing down stuff, Jenna? Thank you. So Linda said the reusable content option, getting that out there for folks, is something that is something that we have been pushing for. The issue that we run into there. So the idea is that for those of you who have been around long enough for the old open text system, the old open text system had it where you could create something in one spot and just reuse it over and over again in other locations within your site. WordPress and the theme do not have that ability. So one of our developers created a plugin that's called it's content sharing. It's a content sharing plugin, but it was created for a particular group that wanted to use it. The hope is that once this particular group is comfortable with it and has signed off on it, we can deliver this to the WiscWeb service as a whole. So basically, I can create a post on the WiscWeb site, and if you have requested access to my site, it is something that you in turn could repost at your site based on this content sharing functionality. And again, it would exist between your own site and also between your site and another site. So Michael, as we were saying earlier, you have 5 sites underneath your umbrella. You have more sites potentially coming on, where the main CSD site could be the parent, and you could create content there and have the other sub-sites or the other sites have that content shared out to them, so that one message could go across many.
That's cool. So we
sites.
wouldn't have to redo bios. We wouldn't have to redo those
Yeah,
types of elements.
it's the limitation. I'm not sure what the limitations like. So like
Yeah,
events are something that don't share at the moment, but that's a known thing. So that's one of those things where it's like a feature improvement.
I'm not sure if custom post types do yet, do they?
I don't know.
I think it's more text based and posts right now.
It's general posts and pages. I think
Yeah.
that it's that right now, but I mean that's known. Good, Phil.
So I was just gonna, that might even get to what you had actually asked for, which was the deep dive on some more complicated use cases or some more advanced abilities, and it almost even sounds like how do I share bios as an example?
Yeah.
It's almost not a content sharing problem, or it might be solved by that, or might be assisted by that, but a bunch of people have that same kind of thing too. Because it's actually also like, well, how do I do it from somewhere else to WordPress? How does WordPress consume this thing we already decided was going to be the place all that information was going to be? And kind of being able to do a flyover of like, here are 15 different ways people have solved this problem. Everyone has a benefit and a drawback, but universally accepted as the best.
Yeah. And that's the kind of thing the group that wanted this, they had a very specific need. So the plugin meets that very specific need. It has room to grow. And part of that conversation will be what can grow with it. Anything else? Linda's the most vocal in the video or in the YouTube stream right now, so.
Glad someone's watching.
Yeah.
Thanks, Linda. Hi, Linda.
Thanks, Linda. You guys newish to the service? Anything that you guys have seen so far in your limited exposure to it that is kind of like a thing that either A, needs to be worked on, or B, needs to be added?
I know one of the biggest draws for us to using this was getting our end users to make more content changes to our websites. Right now we're using an old Drupal platform, and it's really clunky and it's not easy for them to use. So that was the biggest draw for this, is WordPress is a little cleaner and easier to use. Not only that, but the documentation you guys and training you guys have. But some of it I noticed, like, just easy, even like very basic, not IT people kind of stuff. But relating training documents, or even knowledge-based type things for really end users that are just kind of office administrators, or students doing other stuff that happen to be making content changes to the site. Documentation like that for us would be huge, because it wouldn't be duplicating it on my end then. We're kind of phasing out web hosting in general for our department, or our IT group at least, and that's why using this is so great for us. It's offloading the hosting to you guys, and then the content updates to our front office admins, so we can focus more on the computing side.
And it's super helpful for us to know what kind of KB documentation you might be looking for as well, so that is included in this discussion. If there's something that you're like, hey, it would be really great if you had this documented, or could you add this to an existing doc, go ahead and shoot that to our support email list, and we'll work on creating that documentation for you.
Definitely.
Yeah. Another one that Linda posted in here, which is, again, this is one that we are aware of, we just don't have the best answer for yet, is allowing you to post content from website to Facebook. And actually, I'd go one step further, just the theme's ability to, and our own response to the ability to manage social content, either from our end of how to integrate it better into sites, or how to be able to correlate to the two together, is something that we haven't had a good response to. The plugin aspect of it aside, the needs are varied, so it's hard to gauge what the right path is to take when it comes to social media, because some people use it, some people don't. Some people would like to, but then don't. Some people do heavily, and we have all levels. So we started taking a peek at Yoast and how that might help out. That's something that we're looking at right now.
I think
it's big.
and I think the other issue is that the APIs for these tools are constantly changing, so it's really hard to keep up with how often they're changing them and accommodate those changes, so that content isn't constantly breaking.
Yeah.
I know that's one of the biggest struggles with that.
Yeah, there might be one of the benefits of having a third-party plugin that's actually tracking that stuff. But I think like you mentioned, you go and look up Facebook plugin on WordPress.org. It's like there's a lot of things that send something or talk something or read something from Facebook, and it's
and that's
super complicated. Some are really easy. But
well, and actually that leads into, I guess, what is one of the more significant reasons why we are always leery about plugins at times, is just security is a gigantic thing that we worry about on a regular basis. And I don't like being the no person, or we don't like being the no people. A lot of times we have to be, just from a standpoint of, we serve at the pleasure of campus, and we have to make sure that we are attending to those concerns as well as our customers' concerns. So
this is also like exactly the point with the roadmap.
Yeah.
If we get enough voices and enough understanding of, first of all, where we are, what we're working on, and if you don't see anything about social, and that's huge for you coming up, then that is exactly the kind of thing where you're like, we want that feedback then to be like, oh, we gotta, maybe we should put some of these things a little more on the back burner or something, and set aside time to specifically try to see, do we have, so we can't find a one size fits all that's useful, or it's like it's too complicated, right? Do we have like here's a complicated one, and then here's an easy one. And, maybe most people can actually use easy one, but some people can, as power users, they can't use a complicated one. But effectively, the the starting for information thing is that we had a bunch of conversations that were kind of deep like this with, a bunch of different folks from different audiences when the service got started, when it was, looking at transitioning to Amazon, and we need that kind of continued feedback. Otherwise, all we're going to do is just, sit in the room and try to guess what we think is important, as opposed to actually going out and asking all of them.
Yeah.
Again, like, what do you think? What do you think? Is this the right order? Is it that kind of stuff? So, tell us what we're doing wrong, doing right, whatever.
Yeah.
All that.
And I was joking with Michael beforehand, before everything got started, just about the fact that, when we were in open text, we had, I don't know how many sites.
It was 200.
Yeah, it was a couple hundred. Since our move to WordPress, we have expanded by many percent. So we're roughly at 1,000 sites now with roughly 6,000 users, and it's one of those things where it was easy to do stuff in open text because we had a limited audience or a limited customer base. So it's easy to say yes to more things because we didn't have to worry about it breaking the entire system. Now we have a little bit more of we have to make sure that it's good for all kind of mentality, which, like I said, we don't like being the no people, but sometimes we do have to say no, unfortunately, and that's just the nature of what we're doing these days. So
yeah, and feedback's important because from an operational, so we're not quote unquote creating the service anymore, right? We're running it, operating it, etc. So, and from the operational standpoint only, generally speaking, the incentive is to try to do it, better, faster, lower downtime, all those kinds of things, which do not necessarily lend themselves to adding new features and changing direction and all that, which is why we need that information. Yeah, Team mentioned, keep telling us what you still need from us, because we need to keep hearing that. Otherwise, I'm just going to look at it and go like, oh my God, there's so many security updates. I'm going to spend all day doing this, and or the other things we were supposed to do in the last half year.
Yeah, so I mean, it's like part of this is just open conversation about just like what's going good, what's not going good, what could go better. There's lots of things that could always go better, but at the end of the day, what can go better from a standpoint of how can we help you provide the best engagement to your audience? Because you're our audience, you guys are all of our users. You're most if not all are savvy enough in the WordPress environment and savvy enough in website design, and all of our users are comfortable enough tinkering around within WordPress and things like that, and that's great. So from my standpoint, I'm meeting my users' needs, but your users are so varied, and we can't possibly begin to know who your audiences are. And so the more feedback that we get, the more interaction we get with all of you, the better it is for us to create something that isn't our vision, or isn't marketing's vision, or isn't the developer's vision, but it's rather more in line with the vision of what you have for what your audience needs. Now, needs is the key thing there, because everybody wants more. We all want more out of the theme, and we all want more out of the experience. But what do you need? What do you need to make the experience better for your audience? So that's just one of those things where we want more interaction. We want more feedback from all of you. So that's basically what this whole thought process is just to make sure that we can either A, provide you with more, or B, we need you to provide us with more, so that we have a clearer vision moving forward within the team and within the service. So with that, I will yield to the floor. And you guys have any questions? Linda, do you have any questions? You're the only one chatting in there. So.
What did you expect to get out of today?
Tell me what you're feeling. Yeah, I guess I don't know. That's basically it. That's all we had for the brown bag today. It's been, I always feel bad when we have these either canceled or very light agended one, because it seems like we're not doing much, or it seems like nothing's happening. I can't tell you the amount of work that everybody else, the group does. Jenna's constantly busy with site launches and site creations. Phil and does all things server related, so he's always trying to figure out ways to not break things. Our developers are constantly doing things with other sites. Yeah.
Nobody should have known.
Yeah.
I guess I had a question.
Go ahead. Go ahead. It's time for Q&A.
You were talking earlier about you getting an idea of how various sites have solutions to the same problem.
Yes.
Do you have any kind of collection or information on that? Because I have, we're just still launching our sites and still building our sites. And I have some common questions that I assume, other departments are running into. They're fairly, common themes, like how do you embed a calendar from Outlook 365 and, grant management and stuff, publications management. How do other people do that? So where can I find some information on that?
If you start pooling your questions, we can start directing you to the various resources for it, and then that'll help us identify what we might need to still make KB documentation for, and maybe accommodate some of these like content strategy type requests. I think the struggle there is like how best to capture that information, but if it's a need people have, we could certainly brainstorm ways that we can offer that, so that you can, keyword search or something like publications and then see what the different options.
Yeah, and like the Office 365 one is like I think I emailed you back. I don't know if you got.
I didn't even email you.
Oh, okay. So somebody literally emailed me.
Okay.
I thought it was you because you just brought it up. Somebody literally emailed me this morning asking the exact same question about embedding an Office 365 calendar. It's not actually, because in I don't know how many years now that Office 365 has been around, and subsequently us being around, I had that question once before today, and then today I've had it twice. So I emailed back that gentleman and just said it's something I'm gonna have to dig into, because I think there is a way for you to embed or create a public view of an Office 365 calendar, because I think I have one in my signature. So yeah. And so I think there's a way to take that and use some sort of embed functionality or iframe functionality to put it into there.
It messed around a little bit.
Yeah, so I'll have to take a look at that and see if there's some ways to.
And can you just point out the link to the KB? So if you go to help and then
I didn't
help
even know.
docs at the top.
Oh, so you do have a key. I didn't
Yeah,
actually
so
know you
that's
had a
probably
key
the quickest way.
here.
Yeah.
So like on the
Maybe
left.
rename that to knowledge.
Yeah, we can.
It's a thing like.
We have another link to knowledge base, but in case
Oh,
people
yeah.
are looking for help related. So if you go down to where it says browse KB by topic, what we could look at is creating a topic called something like content strategy.
Yeah.
That'll by subtopics like calendars and
Right. Like just
or
common
events
tasks
and stuff like that.
Okay.
And then we can start to add documentation there. It's super helpful for us to know that that's a need. So thank you for bringing that up.
Yeah, and right now we're pretty much doing double duty, because the online or the embedded calendar looks so much nicer than the old Outlook 365 used to look.
Yeah.
So I just put them all online in WordPress and reuse that calendar.
Yeah, and I actually worked. I worked with a group. Jenna was the one who pointed me in the right direction of the answers. But we had a group who wanted to. They had many groups underneath one umbrella, all sharing Google calendars to one location, and so we just took this. We went through a few steps to take these shared calendars and create the embedded Google Calendar on a single page for them. So that's potentially something to look at as well. I know that's not Office 365, and that's not what we recommend, but
Can we bring up the events calendar page on our website?
I sure can.
So we have a plugin, just so that you're aware, we have a plugin called the Events Calendar Pro plugin, and it allows you to build calendar and event related data right in your site if you want to. You are not required to use this, but it is available.
Is this the regular one that because I've used the event calendar on the site.
Yeah.
You said
So
like a pro version or
It's the same.
Yeah.
Um,
The difference is what shortcodes do you use. So that's the difference between the two.
and
we do use this actually. It's really nice for
Yeah.
us.
And you do have the ability to pull in via like a CSV file. You do have to structure that file in a specific way so that it'll pull in content. But for folks who are looking to maybe navigate away from a different tool, if they can download like a CSV file, there's a way that you can bring that in all at once, which is nice.
Yeah.
But currently there's no API interface to set up a shared service account, and that's just magically appear into the calendar.
No.
Okay.
No, we had looked at Kathy had actually contacted them a while back to see if we could get like an academic license, a campus-wide type of license, and they didn't do it. So they do have an aggregator add-on to the Events Calendar Pro plugin, but it is expensive for single license, and then for us to use it service-wide would have gotten
Crazy expensive.
yeah, exceptionally expensive. And then and at the time that we looked, we were crazy crunched in budget, and so it was basically a no. It was an immediate no because we just couldn't afford that sort of functionality. A similar conversation with the Google Maps, the thing that we were looking at as well. It's just, but the Google Maps one was easier to say no to because fewer people use like Google Map type stuff on their sites. So there is no aggregator functionality. We had hoped to work with Academic Technology on that a little bit, but I don't know where that conversation ended up. There had at one point been some sort of aggregator built-in or plug-in
The
functionality.
only part I remember about that too is it's the thing, whatever the work was that they did with the events calendar was, it was from like a much older version.
Yeah.
I don't remember aggregator being one of the capabilities, but no,
Oh.
it was something like pulling it from,
Today.
yeah.
It was
yeah.
yeah,
Something like
it was that. It was
I think
that.
we might have got all of that one, maybe.
I actually tried to do that and I couldn't get it to work.
No.
I imagine today's that was city you. It wasn't pulling anything in.
No.
Jenna wants to hear about that.
Well, I don't know. Are you looking to pull in multiple event calendars through Today.Wisc, or?
No, I
Okay.
mean, I didn't even know how to pull any of the feeds in.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
I couldn't get any of the posts to show up for
Yeah.
today.
Oh, in the page element?
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah,
And if we
that's.
go to your site and take a look?
yeah,
Or
we can.
Something?
Oh, you can, yeah.
Shh,
We
where?
might actually be able to just
What's your site?
do it live.
This one was on biostat.webwisc, what are we?
Biostat.WiscWeb.
Yeah. Should be it.
Do it.
Yeah,
Do it live, they say.
it's on the right hand side.
So it's this guy over here?
Yeah, underneath that there was a today feed, and I think I removed it then.
That's all right.
Remember what your today tag was? By any chance?
What were you looking for on today?
You know what this tag was that you were trying to pull in?
No, I guess that's what I don't know.
Okay, so that's fine. So we'll go down this line. One of the things that people like about the today.wisc.edu is it's central, so it's campus wide from this standpoint. The issue that we run into with the today.wisc.edu, so I'll take film for example, is it has this URL function, this tag function here. And so if you add the page element and you add today.wisc.edu, film events upcoming.
So you just can't pull in all of them. Okay,
You can't pull in more than one tag at a time.
gotcha.
So I'm
But
just
there
gonna preview.
is something called a feed manager that we're starting to document this with the university marketing right now,
Yeah,
where you can pull in multiple tags
yeah,
and have one URL that you pull into this tool.
Yeah.
I
So
think that was
Yeah,
my
yeah.
issue. I was trying to pull in like a bunch of ones that were
Yep.
related to
Yeah.
the School of Medicine.
yep.
reach
no.
out with an email to our support queue and we can make sure that you get some guidance on that. But we're literally documenting that on Tuesday.
Okay.
Yeah, and there were other options too, like, so, as an example, if film was the example, but you wanted, I don't know, let's say you wanted the word union also or something like that, so you wanted film and you only wanted the ones that had something to do with union, whatever, that, like, all the rest of the non-union related film things, like, you didn't actually want to show up in the feed, like that Nick and company, that American, they can set up a custom thing to do that, which I think, and undoubtedly that's what you're gonna end up.
I think that's,
doing as
yeah.
well. Because there's a couple ones where like some people were just like, what? It's like there's always been too many of the whatevers in there, and I only wanted, I typed in science, and it turns out there's a lot of stuff that showed up. Like I only wanted the bio stuff or something.
Yeah, so
They can do some filtering.
Okay.
University Marketing manages the Today.Wisc end of it, and so they're the ones that help set up the account over there and things like that. But since we do have a page element, we partner with them. And I was recently made aware of those kind of intricacies that are possible.
So we can do, or we can't do that on the site yet, though.
You can, we just haven't documented it yet.
Gotcha, okay. Well, thank you for showing me that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The other thing that I have actually been trying to, so when you deal with multiple groups trying to submit events and you're trying like,
Yeah, that's what it's worth.
yeah. So if you're like the parent site and you have these other sites that kind of look to you, one of the things that I have been recommending is when you go out here and you create it and you do these events, create one that is sort of umbrella BioCore. And just have that as the one tag that would appear. So you'd have BioCore and then another tag and then another tag. Well, they could pull in this tag if they wanted to for their particular site. Another site can pull in this tag. But if you have that one that is unique across all of them, you could use that as the tag that you're pulling in for that particular, for your particular parent site as well. So that way you could have that umbrella of all of them.
So that begs the question, what types of events are appropriate for Today.Wisc advertising?
Matt, you don't know.
Yeah, that's a great question.
That is
for
a very good
university
question.
Marketing. We've had people struggle where they don't, I think it's all public, isn't it?
Yep.
Like anything you put in here. So there's folks that have particular events that are meant for like grad students in this specific program and they want to advertise it, but they don't. Yeah, but they don't want like just anyone coming. So Today.Wisc wouldn't be a good solution for them because it would be public to everyone.
So, but is this the create page though?
Yeah.
If you scroll back up though. That one, share this event with campus.
Oh, they have
Sharing
it.
makes the event available for publishing in campus. Like, and this is where it gets kind of hilarious, right? According to that, it sounds like you would have to check that in order for you to be able to consume as an event.
Right.
So.
Yeah. It's not gonna let you
so
make a
ironically-
private
Can you go
tag
back up
if
to it?
it's,
Well,
You
and
know,
that would be the guess that
checkbox.
that's the current functionality.
Right.
Because it is, and I've definitely seen this before too, where I was like, I got sent a Today.Wisc link or something, and I'm like, what? I searched for this. It's like, yeah, it doesn't show up.
Yeah.
So, but again, that's a bit more of the functionality that's here is based on what they've had requests for. So,
Yeah.
And what they believe might be, best fits for a quote unquote campus calendar solution. It's also sort of a guess this isn't everybody's primary place to do this.
Well, and the other issue that I have that was raised with a couple of the groups that I've worked with who I have, if they didn't like events calendar, they wanted something else that was more campus wide, and I would recommend Today to them. The issue that they have is that there would be days where something would change on the day that the event was going to happen. And if you go to today.wisc.edu to update said event, update does not happen instantaneous. It does have to be approved, which can be a non-timely thing in regards to when event is versus when event gets updated. So that's the benefit of using events calendar, is just the fact that you control it. It's your bag. So I joked before we started the fact that I have an open lab at 1 o'clock. So I'm gonna start to wrap things up. One of the things that I did also want to touch on, because we do have a couple of new faces in the room. There it is. So one of the things that we also have, not run by us, the WiscWeb group, and Michael being in the group can speak to this a little bit as well, is we do have a WiscWeb community of practice, and it's essentially a large group of our WiscWeb user base who sort of came together on their own to speak to just various things that they do within the theme and that they do within their sites to help others who are a little newer to this or who are just looking to do different things with that. So,
also just general UW theme users.
Yeah,
There's several of those now too.
Yeah. So underneath support, there is a community of practice link on our main page. You can go there and get all that information. From that, it is mean, we have some you'll get to know some of those faces, and if you come to more of these brown bags, you'll get to know some of those faces even more because a couple of them are regularly in those meetings. But that's another place to go if you're just kind of like, you know what, how do you guys do this thing? Like I said, sometimes we are, I'll speak for me. Sometimes I am a little narrow-minded when it comes to how to deliver contents to audiences because I don't know who your audience is. So I'm like, yeah, this will work. It's right there. And I'll get told, no, that's our audience doesn't go to that place. They never look at that stuff. So that's a good spot to get some more information there as well. So, all right. That being said, I'm going to wrap things up a little bit. You guys have any other questions?
Yeah, I'm the one that's been emailing you.
Yeah.
But, I just had someone move to another job at the office.
Yeah.
So I just so I suppose the brown bag wasn't the thing.
No, but it's informational. So welcome in. You get to learn about us and my unique style of dealing with everything.
So open lab.
My scatter, open lab was where we wanted to come to, which is the 1 o'clock thing.
Yeah,
There.
So Brown Bag is a once a month meeting that we host that where we give out information on anything that's new with us, but also have kind of a question answer for customers if they have anything specific they want to ask about. Open Lab is an opportunity to come and sit with members of the team and actually work on particular issues. It's located in the Comp Sci building next door in the basement. We have 2 a week. They're 2-hour sessions. You can arrive anytime during that 2-hour session. We do have laptops down there where you can bring your own, so you can just work on stuff. And then we also have training. So if you're looking for formal training in the tool, there's, you want to click on that training.
Oh,
At the top.
there we go.
There's scheduled training each week as well.
Yep.
On the UW theme.
And obviously, I haven't scheduled April yet. All right, we will call it a brown bag there. Thanks everybody for attending, and we will talk to you soon.